Hi, I'm Kayla Berkey with UCC News, and I am joined here by the Reverend Jorge Bautista, who is a pastor of College Heights Church, a United Church of Christ congregation in San Mateo, California. Reverend Bautista has been in the news recently after video and photos captured the moment that a U.S. immigration officer struck him in the face with a pepper round at a gathering that began as a prayer vigil. To give a little background, this incident arose because on October 22nd, the president announced a surge of federal immigration enforcement agents in the Bay Area. And so I just want to start just kind of interested to know, with the news of that immigration surge coming, which was actually since called off, but at that time, how did that news impact the people in your community?
Obviously, people right away were beginning to start strategizing, and I mean, pretty much, there was fear, right? I mean, we've all been seeing the news in LA, Portland, Chicago,
Mm,
so people right away are just thinking, okay, how are we going to prepare ourselves for this? And so I think there's a few things that there was a response to was obviously fear, and I'm thinking specifically the migrant communities, right, and people in specific migrant churches just talking about alternative ways of being together as a faith community because they're realizing, okay, ICE is showing up to the Bay Area. How are we gonna, try to not be either out grocery shopping to our favorite stores or showing up to our churches? So I think a lot of people that I know that are connected to different churches who are migrants, yeah, obviously they begin to just feel afraid
mm,
and
mm.
figuring out how are they gonna really go by their routines, right? Their day-to-day lives. So I think there was definitely a sense of uh, concern for every right reason about what was going to happen, really.
For sure. Yeah. Um, and then it seems like, people move pretty quickly with the day after this was announced, is the date that you were gathered for the prayer vigil at the site that ICE planned to use as their place of operation. And so can you share a little bit about what the vigil and this gathering was and, why you as a religious leader decided to participate?
Right. Uh, I'm part of a organization called Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, and that is in uh, a group that's one of the leaders is Reverend Deborah Lee, who's also a United Church of Christ minister. And so she's been part of that for a while. And so I've been part of just showing up whenever, they're asking clergy to show up to a variety of either protest or um, sort of marches or whatever the need may be. But yeah, so um, I'm one to always I just want to show up and follow other people's leads, right? So, word got out and we got our emails and, they started organizing and said, doing all the hard work and asking us to just show up for that day. And that was simply supposed to be just a vigil, really a presence, and we knew media was going to be there. So you know how vigils work, right? We're going to pray, we're going to have music, we're going to have speakers, and then sort of a call to action. So that all, I would say, because I think we got noticed a few days before the actual day of
Okay.
of them showing up. So we had more than one day to kind of, well, they did, especially. They were doing all the organizing. I just showed up, ready to be used however they need me. And so that kind of just is really credit to them for getting us there and organizing us as clergy to show up and be a presence. And those of us that showed up as clergy, I mean, we obviously believe in and always standing on the side of love, right? So the love for migrants in this case, right? Knowing that, uh, migrants are also members of our churches, members of our communities, and that they also deserve to live in peace and with full dignity, right? So, I mean, we know what these ICE agents were doing around the country. We knew how they're harassing and, just taking people away, separating families, and really hurting them. And so our job, and for me, I speak for myself, I guess, as clergy, my job, I think, or I believe is to make sure people are, experiencing joy in their lives and are being happy, and that they are, being respected and not abused, and reminding all of us that we're all divine beings on this earth, and therefore we all should be respected. And obviously our migrant communities are have been criminalized, and I show up to say otherwise, right? I
Mm-hmm.
show up to always say, you know, uh, the right of human movement around the world is a human right. Migrants uh, or migration has always been part of our history, right, as human beings. So, um, unfortunately, we see that kind of diminishing more and more in our lifetime for some reason, where we're denying the right of human movement because we know a variety of circumstances take place. People have to move, right? Because they're not safe where they're at. Um, so they're to protect migrants, right? And that they have a right to be here and live here, and live their lives and have a family if they wish, and just live how they want to live.
Yeah.
Pretty much to say, ICE, we're watching you, and we're not gonna let,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to allow, you're not welcome here because you're just really here to hurt people, and no one
Mm-hmm.
deserves to be abused and hurt.
Yeah, and it seems like at some point the whole tone of this gathering changed, right? Can you talk a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it all happened so fast. So we were scheduled to arrive at 7 a.m. And let's just say I ended up at the ER at 7:40 in the morning, just to give you a sense how fast things happen. But I found myself in a corner where all our signs were at from the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, because they always create these beautiful art pieces of, sticks to hold up with a message, right? In this case, it was a sign that said "Ice out of the Bay." And so I was led there to get a sign, and I stood there at that corner holding my sign, waiting for further instructions, just kind of observing, uh, just kind of who, or sort of scanning who was there. Because when I got there, there was already protesters there. There was already a group of people kind of blocking the entrance to the military base, or where the Ghost Guard is at, kind of just walking around in a circle. So I was just hanging out in the corner, and next thing you know, I turn to my left to see down the street, and that's when I observe from a distance kind of a caravan of border patrol vehicles kind of speeding down the road, and I knew right away who they were, and of course right away I'm like, okay, here they come, full speed ahead, really aggressively already, and they pretty much just the way they braked sort of aggressively in front of all the protesters, I just knew this is not good. They're already showing up
Mm-hmm.
aggressively with their vehicles, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my instinct is I'm gonna get close up front, because I need to let these agents know I'm watching them and I'm here to make sure people are safe, right? And to just have my presence itself hopefully also de-escalate, right? And but they showed up, and they got out of the vehicles, and they just started kind of aggressively saying things to the protesters, get out the way, and now we're just gonna drive right through you. You can't do anything to stop us. um just I mean, it just seemed like they were ready to fight. They were ready to, pick a fight with the protesters. um Yeah, it was really intense. It was really intense. And of course, I was getting upset too because there's kids around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking there's no need for this approach and how just aggressive they were right away from the get-go. But yeah, next thing they're kind of using their vehicles to push people. They're revving their cars, right? Slowly trying to get through the protesters. And, there's protesters just staying in front of the car, but it got to a point where I'm like, just someone's going to get run over. Just let them go or something, right? Because they obviously didn't care about the protesters, even though they were being peaceful. And at that point, the Coast Guard kind of stepped away and let Border Patrol kind of just navigate the whole situation. But this is where things just, move so fast. A few vehicles were let through, but after one or two vehicles, right? I don't know if you see protesters kind of like swarm away, but then they get back and block the next
Mm-hmm.
vehicle. So that happened a couple of times. And so after the third time, I think um, what I observed was the vehicles that did get through the crowd, they did not make it fully across the bridge. What they did is park their vehicles, got out of their trucks, and had their weapons. Right? They started guard. They were just. I didn't. I mean, to me, they were like SMGs. I had no idea there was some kind of. I forget what to even call those weapons they have, where they just
Mm-hmm.
launch tear gas or whatever from them. Um, but they were garnishing a weapon and pointing them at protesters, and that really just didn't sit well with me. Of course, I'm like, there is no need to be pointing these weapons at the protesters. So I, of course, believe to always stand and use my body to, you know, try to make a statement like, look, we're here in peace, right? Stop. There's no need for your weapons, right? So I found myself in front of a Border Patrol vehicle and facing, though, the bridge, facing the Border Patrol agents to get their attention because I was hoping to kind of talk to them and be like, hey, listen, chill out, right? Just relax, breathe. um, But I had this whole thing in my mind what I was hoping would happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And none of that happened because I even get a chance because at the moment when I thought about this great idea I had in my head that would hope would de-escalate the situation, I locked in with one of the agents who from a distance started coming right towards me. I just got targeted, singled out, and he got closer and closer to me and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna get this agent attention. Hopefully, we could talk, right? And but uh, he got so close to me that I said to him, 'cause I'm thinking he could hear me now. I want to say something to him, and pretty much the first thing that came out like, "We come at peace," right? Or "We come in peace," and soon after that, that's when he shot at my face.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've said to everybody, I just didn't think he was gonna shoot me.
Yeah, that'd be a shock.
I uh I just I don't know. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. I believe that even though I've seen all the images, I've seen how aggressive they have been with everyone else and how they've been aggressive and abusive with me in the past. I just wanted to hold hope, I guess, and believe it could be different this time, right? Even though they were already in a certain spirit of aggressiveness where they really just didn't care about us. But no, he did not hesitate. He already had made a decision. He was going to shoot me the moment he started approaching me. I mean, he had his finger on his trigger and everything. So no warnings, no other forms of procedures first. It just felt like they had no procedures whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was kind of making their own decisions as agents and how to deal with us.
it, from what I understand, you got hit in your chin with this
Hmm.
this pepper ball round, right? Which
Hmm.
is also has this chemical component to it and had to seek medical care, right? So I just want to extend some care to, and ask how you're doing since then it's been 2 weeks, right? How are you?
I'm doing well. Yes. Yeah, I'm doing good. Amazingly. I am shocked because I so after the state of shock and being shocked that I realized he did shoot me. You're right, because I already had imagined the worst uh physically at that. I was gonna be out of commission for who knows how long, from who knows what broken bones I may have, got right now. And I just and it was all painful, of course. But after the ER, I started feeling better. I The only thing that was bothering me a lot was my eyes and having
Mhm.
headaches for a few days because they were still burning. But but boy, I mean, the doctor said I was very lucky, and he doesn't know how I didn't. I mean, the doctor told me I could have, because he's seen it before, uh, where people have gotten shot in the face, right, and they got shot in the eyes, and they've gone blind after that. So he just was very clear. You are lucky. If it would have shot you
Wow.
closer to your eyes or on your eyes, the chances of you being blind is would have been pretty high. So when I got after um people started pouring, like, all the people that helped me just try to get all the pepper spray out of my face, and I finally kind of collected myself and was able to breathe again. I actually did not want to leave. I wanted to go back and find the agent. But of course, I was affecting everyone else with all the pepper spray. They're like, no, one, go get cared. Two, you're gonna affect all of us. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I don't want to affect anyone else because obviously I was covered with all that stuff. So
Yeah, it's been sort of an interesting thing to see like several pastors and faith leaders being pretty directly targeted, or just, use of what they're calling excessive force from ICE agents lately in Chicago. Reverend David Black was also struck in the head with these pepper balls. And um,
twice, I think. Well, I think
oh,
I
wow.
think one, he got sprayed once, and then second, he got shot in the head with a pepper ball. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think something that really is striking is to see these faith leaders. Like these are stories that we're really paying attention to, because when we see this happen to faith leaders, we see kind of these people who represent morality and deep conviction. And I'm just curious if you have any reflections on that, and, if it might impact or how you're going to carry forward as a faith leader
Yeah,
who is impacted.
absolutely. This is a conversation that's intriguing me right now that I want to have, right, with faith leaders, because especially, I don't know if you heard, um, there was a clip that was sent to me that I actually did not see live, but uh, a journalist asked Mike Johnson at a press conference. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
And the journalist asked Mike Johnson if he what he thought, or if he had heard about the UCC minister that got shot, referring
Mhm.
to me, right?
Right.
And then he went. I mean, he didn't. My name wasn't put out there, but he was referring to me, what happened to me, and also then to the other pastors, right? Of course, Mike Johnson, like he always is infamous for saying, he doesn't know, he hasn't seen it. But he pretty much, and I can't remember exactly a direct quote from him, but he said, well, if they're in front of ICE agents, they shouldn't be, right? Kind of in a sense insinuating like probably had it coming anyways, right? So I think it's interesting that right now it's mainline Protestants and and Jewish clergy who are on the front lines protesting, with this government and this attack on migrants, right? So it is very clear that in one sense, yes, you could say it's an attack on our religious freedom, right? On the other hand, it's also an attack on a certain school of thought of Christianity, right?
Mhm.
Because if it was if it was, Mike Johnson being a Baptist Christian, I believe, right? He should probably care about what's happening to his other Christians, sisters and brothers, right? But since it doesn't fit their agenda,
Mhm.
whatever that may be, I think they're okay with Christians being attacked that are not from their school of thought, right? So, eh, you know, I do think that we are in a time where we're hearing it, right? Where, kind of Christian nationalism is on the rise.
Mhm.
And, this country has always, I think, a group of people wanting to have a theocracy, right? For this country to be a theocracy. So, I think many of the mainline Christians, like ourselves, Presbyterians, I mean, uh, they don't like us, right? We stand against everything they believe this country shouldn't stand for, right? And because they know that we're taking the side of we're open and affirming, right? We believe the inclusion of all people, right? We stand on the side of rights for women to have autonomy, right? To do, meaning we're, the opposite of where they stand with, you know, pro-life and all that. So I think that we bring a theology that they really hate,
Mhm.
right? And that they want to stop. We're just kind of, it seems, standing always on the side of fighting for those who are on the margins in a sense. And they're doing the opposite of what we would say that's not the way of Jesus, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
there's a split in politics and there's a split in our faith.
What do you take from this experience? Like, how do you move forward? Has it changed anything in you?
No, I mean, if anything, it sparked, um, it has sparked. So I've been to a lot of protests in my life, right? This one was really different, really different. The last time I was arrested by Border Patrol, they beat me up pretty good and left bruises on my back. I was kind of out for about a week. This was in 2018, and they roughed me up. They roughed me up really good and put me in a van, took me out in isolation on the desert, on the hills, and really just that was quite traumatizing. But yet this one seemed worse than that, even though I didn't experience pain as much as I did the first
Mm.
time. Um, I think it's because to see Border Patrol way out here, not like because that first experience was at the border, right,
Mm.
where it's their
Mhm.
jurisdiction in a sense, where I'm like, okay, if you're Border Patrol, it makes sense you're at the border. But having Border Patrol like in the city of Chicago and Portland, like where there's no border out here. Like what borders are
Right.
you? Why are you way out here?
Mhm.
Right? Um, and obviously it makes me think, okay, yeah, right now the government is really utilizing all its agencies to attack migrants, right? Border Patrol, ICE, Homeland Security, not sheriffs, but like FBI. I mean, in
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. I mean, it's like a full-on attack on migrants, right? And I mean, and I'm talking about migrants, citizens also, right?
Mhm.
It's like, and if you're a person of color, most likely you're gonna be attacked too, right? But so I feel um I don't know what the word is, but I think this is a good time for us to organize around what it means to decriminalize being a migrant in this country, right? I think this is a time for us to, yes, continue to show up, but I'm in my head or in my happy, I want us to start thinking about pushing policies that kind of doesn't, because right now the narrative is, well, they're breaking the law, right? Because they're here. Well, we know laws are not always just. right? How
Right.
do we get to a point where, how amazing Black leadership in the past said, well, yeah, it's a law through the Jim Crow era. They forced to change those laws, right? That dehumanize them. Well, right now, migrants are being dehumanized, right? So we need to push forward and say, hey, it's time that we say being a migrant is not against the law, right? That there's no such thing as that, right?
I'm wondering if you could just lay out a little more about your faith convictions around supporting migrants and migrant justice.
Jesus put himself out on the line a lot, and that's why I believe he was crucified because he stood up for what he believed in, right?
Mhm.
And he believed in wanting just for one, he never gave up his faith as a Jewish man, right? But he also didn't force others to convert into Judaism, and he never wanted to start a faith called what we call Christianity. I believe, in a sense, I feel we're borrowing the Jewish faith in a sense, right? But I think that just that the stories of him and how he walked with people and how he hung around with people and stood on the side of people, even though he knew his own people from his own tradition were probably going to be upset at him and how he included people into his life, or how he got angry and how people treated other people who were not part of his own tradition or culture or even gender. Uh, he was not scared to do that, right? He, uh, I'm thinking even like in the book of Luke when he first does his first sermon and how he talked about and quoted the prophet Isaiah and remembering the captives, the homeless, and so on. He almost got pushed off a cliff for speaking his truth, right? To include and remind us of who we need to kind of bring into the center. So, um, that's the kind of Jesus I always want to follow. The
Mm.
one that kind of steps into the centers of power and says, "Wait a second, this is not right." Right? The I get it. There's gray areas in life, but there's some things in life that are very black and white that you definitely there's a line, and we shouldn't be crossing that line, right? For human rights. And I think Jesus always knew that, okay, there's that line. Not only would he cross it, right, but he would remind others, don't cross that line because it's about hate, not love. Let's cross this line over here where it's standing on the side of love. So, and I gotta say, my faith, uh, while that has been a drive for me to be an activist, it's also been other things that have spoken to my faith. Right, I grew up in the Bay Area. I feel like I've learned a lot from other traditions as well. That's not been my own. That has helped me understand how I walk my life and how I live out my faith. But I always grew up with hearing stories about the Black Panther Party for self defense. And I feel that's just been part of my DNA, right? And the Black Panthers, I mean, they, started here in Oakland, and they really had to protect their own, right? That's why they were the South Defense Party, and they started, food programs, and that's why we have like free lunch programs today. And I mean, they have been a model in how we show up for each other, and reminding us that it is all right to defend ourselves when our communities are being attacked, right? So for me, showing up is a form of saying we're here to defend ourselves as well. We're not gonna let you attack, right? In this case, the ICE agents, our communities. And so as a person of faith, it speaks to me a lot also because I feel like Jesus showed up to defend people, right?
Mhm.
And so I think about being a Chicano, and also, my parents are Mexican, and so they have, they migrated up here, and I was born here in Stockton, California. But growing up in a community where we admire Cesar Chavez, we admired, just different community organizers, I feel like it's just kind of in me, you know, the constant uh spirit of, luchando por la gente, so like, always showing up for your community, because I also grew up, you know, cops always harassing us
Mm.
and putting us in handcuffs as kids and whatnot. So yeah, it's a combination of things that I like to say pushes me to not be afraid and face, whatever authorities are out there trying to oppress us.
Yeah. I'm remembering you kind of saying you're like, yeah, I just showed up because someone told me to, but it sounds like you showed up with a whole readiness within you
Oh,
to
absolutely.
be where
Yeah.
you needed to be.
Yeah. 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 Well, I like to show up. I trust people. I have a lot of trust in a lot of people. There's a lot of amazing people doing out there great work and community organizing. I like to show up and trust people's leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And I like staying in the shadows. That's why this all this attention is really hard for me. I don't even know how to talk about it, or I doing interviews, that's not really my strength. I just want to just love people and show up where I'm needed. So yeah, it's but overall I'm always down. I'm always down to be a presence and to be a support in any way I could be for those who for the true leaders out there.
Well, yeah, well, thank you for talking with me. Do you have do you have any last words of hope to offer us?
Hope.
Where are you finding
Yeah.
hope right now?
I'm finding a lot of hope actually in the way, I'm looking at Chicago, as horrible as it is. I mean, I wish I was there right now with the people of Chicago.
Hmm.
But boy, let me say, communities are showing up for each other, right? And that gives me a lot of hope, because we know there's power when we get organized and when we come together. We are able to bring change, and I know we're going to bring that change. It's gonna happen. So let's keep believing in one another. Let's keep showing up for each other. Let's keep organizing. Let's keep screaming, doing whatever it takes to really get our message out. And I have hope that uh, out of this, a lot of faith leaders will continue to share, especially in the United Church of Christ, why we stand on the side of our queer sisters and brothers, trans sisters and brothers, why we stand on the side of migrants, why we stand on the side of women, right, and so on. So let's keep amplifying that voice, because we're doing something right. We're doing something really good, and that's why they're attacking us.